Hello and welcome. I want to introduce Mike Everett. Mike has over 25 years of experience in the IT industry across three major sectors: government, healthcare, and financial services. Mike has held several roles, including senior leadership, and now holds the title of Field CTO for Trace3. He's going to be talking about ransomware and how it has become a big business. Everyone welcome Mike Everett.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Everybody hear me? So I get to be the guy that's between you and food. So hopefully you had a bigger breakfast. There was a lot of options in there. So the hackers you should know, what I really want to go through this morning is really kind of understanding really what we're up against and kind of talk about really the three things about cybercrime that are relevant today, as well as then go into the 5 different hackers, the people that are trying to get to the data, the people that once they get the data, traverse our networks, and then once they hit the pot of gold, the guy that gets to deliver the message to you that you've been officially locked up. So like you said, my name is Mike Everett. I've been around the industry for a long time. Currently, I work at Trace3 as a field CTO. Trace3 is a technology reseller, services provider with a headquarters in California, but we also serve nationwide. We have a large office in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I don't know if there's any other Indianapolis, is there? I don't know. So I'm just gonna be honest with you. I haven't had to speak in front of anybody for a couple of years. I was actually kind of nervous. It just seems like it's been a minute. So I'll get into it. So cybercrime, what is cybercrime? Cybercrime is everything from fraud to ransomware, right? And everything in between. This is just a whole big mixed bag of bad guys finding ways to make good money off of good people. So the market today, number one thing is it's evolved, right? It's incredibly pervasive. It's grown so much in the last several years that it's, and I'll have a slide later on to kind of show you how the explosion kind of took place, right? So think about it as it's not just the one person alone in their grandmother's basement anymore, right? It's a group of people. It's an organization. It's a mafia type of mentality. They're enterprise. So if you use like the credit card fraud as an example, so you'll have a group that'll come in and they'll steal a bunch of credit cards. Another group will take those credit cards and they'll sell them in batches by validation on the black market. Somebody buys those and then they take them and they use them to buy real stuff. Then somebody else takes that real stuff and sells it and makes it real money. And all those are different groups that work together simultaneously to cause us inflict more harm. Global market, it's huge. I mean, ransomware it wasn't that long ago where it was just occasionally you'd hear about ransomware, right? Now it's all the time. There's a million different players in the field anymore. And with the introduction of ransomware as a service, you, me, anybody that would have that mental aptitude to cause harm on other people, you can buy ransomware as a service packages on the dark web now. So at one point in time, think about, and this sounds really kind of off to say, but ransomware and the Revels of the world actually were ethical. I mean, they would lock up your data. They would do everything they were supposed to do. But if you paid, they would give you the key to decrypt your data, and then you went on about your business. Hackers, ransomware, ethical. But they did. But those days are over because of the ransomware as a service that anybody can do that. So global market generates more profit than the global drug trade. That's insane. Because what's funny, you hear about the drug trade all the time. That tunnel they just found going from San Diego, down to Mexico, right? That was just discovered. I think it was like 6 miles long, the technology and stuff like that. So all these things are going on. Somebody had to dig a tunnel. But ransomware, you don't have to dig a tunnel. You just got to get somebody to make one click. So a little illustration here, and I'll kind of show you. If I fall off the stage, I'll get back up. So if cybercrime was a country, it'd have the 3rd largest economy behind the US and China. That's a lot of money, in this world that we live in. And then obviously larger global trade. Cybercrime costs more than all natural disasters in a year. And think about when you have the big ones that hit the tsunamis, typhoons, all that stuff that happens all across the world. And then this is actually not accurate anymore. I read an article the other day that cybercrime is now expected to top 15 trillion in 2025. That's insane. So this is an example I said earlier, the explosion of 2020 of ransomware. You'll see a lot of companies up there. 2020 was the first recorded, and these are all just the ones that are reported. There's a lot that happens that's not reported that companies just deal with, smaller companies. But 2020 was the first recorded death due to ransomware, and it was a lady in Dusseldorf, Germany, who had urgent needs, was taken to a hospital. The hospital was locked up under ransomware. Their IT systems were not working. They had to transport them to another one, and she died on transport. So they're saying it was related to ransomware. First known case. Obviously, you can tell by the shaded, that shows up a little clearer on my laptop, the outlines of all the countries, but you can see a lot of where this comes from. Russia, North Korea's, the Nigeria's. So a little bit about myself. I have triplet daughters. Those triplet daughters graduate high school 1 week from today. One of them broke their nose yesterday in a powder puff football game. That's a whole nother issue. But I keep telling them, and I've told them in the security world, is I only need one of you to marry a Nigerian prince. Because if you do, the whole family's set. I get emails all the time. They've got money. And it's yours. They're just waiting for you. But so we talk about that, but it's, in all reality, it's the truth. These are the companies and the people that are hurting us. And the reason is a lot of it's political in those countries because the government gets kickback. I watched a interview not too long ago with a hacker, and I believe it was Revel, that live public interview, Russian television, and he was there with his face, wasn't none of this, type of thing. And he was talking about, he has no fear. The Russian government is not going to prosecute him because the deal is, you do whatever you want to anybody else. Don't touch anybody in our own country, and you're good. The rules that apply by them, that they are applicable to them, is they cannot leave that country because you know who they are. And he told a story of one of their guys that went to, I think it was the Bahamas on vacation, to try something different. And the minute he got off the plane, because of the intel and stuff like that, he was arrested. So they know, stay in your country. They live like kings, but anyway, and point number 3, the final point, and then the intro will be over and I'll get kind of into the hackers. There's no silver bullet. And I've been doing this a long time, and I wish I could tell you that if you did this or if you did that you were going to be safe. You're not. I mean, there's a series of things that you have to put into place really to kind of secure harden your environment as much as you possibly can. And a lot of that comes to time, money, management, security best practices, following a framework, whatever that looks like, and being key and using that and having your management buy-in. You need leadership buy-in to be safe, right? Because you're going to have to put money from the minute somebody comes in, if somebody does get in, anymore it's not if, but when. Do you have the tools in place to look, monitor, and watch your network to know when somebody comes in? And I'll kind of get into that here in a little bit, but there is no silver bullet. I wish there was. Then I wouldn't have a job. Maybe gold bullet, I don't know. Anyway, so to kind of get into a little bit. So here are the 5 hackers. I will tell you, I've been asked this before. These are not real fake people. They're not real faces. They're personas. Used software that had AI that took a bunch of different criteria and put together, made up a face. They look real to me, but that's the software of today's world. But to get into it, so Pierre is the password hacker. Pierre's #1 job is to get and use any means possible to break into websites to steal username and password. That's his job. That's what he gets paid for. That's what he wants to do. Pierre gets paid by volume. Pierre's not going to be somebody that personally tests out your username and password because he doesn't care. Once he hits a website, and there's a lot of Pierres out there, and actually the next 5, there's a lot of them out there. This is just not one person. This is a persona that their job is to do this particular thing in the world of ransomware. Pierre's job is once he does have username and passwords, he uses a very sophisticated software. And that sophisticated software allows him to input username and passwords, be able to browse other accounts across the world, Netflix, Hulu, Hotmail, Gmail, you name it, to see where else you're using your password. The software is smart enough to know and pick up if you went from spring 22 to summer 22. It knows how to make those transitions. And what he's ultimately looking for, where he gets paid the most money, is two different things. Financial, anything, if you're using the same thing on your Gmail account and your PNC account, that's a win for him. If you're using the same password for your work email address as well as your Gmail or Yahoo, that's big money for him. He gets more money off those two different emails or username and passwords, off financial and email, largely because financial kind of makes sense. But email, if he sells those in batches on the black market and they're proven validation, that's how people use to spoof other people's emails to get you to bite and click. That was the laser. So a couple things you can do to thwart Mr. Pierre. Use unique and complex passwords or passphrases. The other thing, use secure password manager. There's a couple likes and dislikes. Pierre likes simple passwords. He likes you to use the same password across as many environments as you possibly can. That makes his job a lot easier, and it really lines his pockets with some financial gain. What he doesn't like is like the complex and the password managers, like the KeyPass, Dashlane, Keeper. Who here uses a password manager? That's actually the most I've ever seen, to be quite honest with you. It's amazing, right? That's one of the most secure methods you'll ever use. Like I personally use Dashlane. And what I like about Dashlane is if I lose my password to it, they don't reset it. It'd be a lot of redo, but I mean, there's a lot of work and stuff that plays into it. The next one is Hannah. Hannah's the scammer. Hannah is going to come at you from a different perspective. Hannah understands and knows the human psyche. Hannah knows people. She plays on people's emotions. She plays on all these different areas and avenues to come in. She's somebody that's going to take and come at you from a Gmail account. She's somebody that's going to come at you from a different scam. Her whole goal is to get somebody that is in a hurry, executives, not paying attention, somebody that can easily be bullied in a conversation, and she likes to play and leverage her time, energy into different scams. She's somebody that's going to play into, hey, grandma, your grandson's going to jail. If you don't give us and send this money, this $5,000, he's going to go to this Mexican jail and he's going to have a really bad time for the rest of his life. She's also somebody that comes in on Valentine's Day. She's also comes in, if you think about the war in Ukraine, hey, people, they need your help. Click on this link, this will send, and you'll be able to come out and help them. That's her whole goal in life, is to do that and play on people's emotions. Hannah's somebody that she does not like somebody that's trained. She does not like somebody that's trained. She does not like somebody that is willing to question authority. Somebody that will say, whoa, slow down. Hold on just a second. This doesn't make sense because the CEO would never do that. Give me a little bit more information. Click. That's not where she makes her money. She makes her money is, hey, I'm calling for this. I know that this is going to go on in your world today. I know your CEO is somewhere in the Bahamas. What we'd like you to do and what they're asking us to do, and I can't believe I'm even asking you to do this, is we need to wire this money now because somebody's going to be upset if we don't. We're going to lose business or we're going to lose a sale. That's what she does. She likes people that want to populate everything about social media. Put as much as you can out there on social media. LinkedIn, it's all the same. They leverage that to gain as much information as they possibly can. And there's a whole gamut of areas that they can come in. If you think about it today, and I lecture my kids all the time. They say it's lecture. I can talk to them, inform them, but it depends on their day too. But they want to know why I won't let them have Facebook, or why I won't. It's because you're going to populate stuff that's not necessary. But Dad, it is. It's so important. So-and-so has it. Fine, I lost that battle. scared of my wife for one. But yeah, so I mean, Instagram and stuff like that, they put the stories out there, but they know that, and they know they go on vacation. If somebody's watching you, and believe it or not, there's no target too small today. There's really not, because one simple target can lead to a big target, no matter how you look at it. So that is Hannah. The one thing, a couple things you can do with her is be aware of and train. Here's the different things that are going on today. The CEO fraud's been around a long time. Tax season, the W-2 phishing, email account compromise, business email spoofing, all this stuff, and hopefully you'll see, is Pierre goes to Hannah, and we'll do another one, is how they get together. Somebody gets something and gives it to somebody else, that somebody else takes that and leverages it into spoofing. So like I said earlier, if Pierre can get your email account information, there's your business email spoofing, there's your email account compromise. And when I was at Farm Credit Mid-America, where I was a CISO for 10 years, we dealt with that all the time. Title companies, because we do all these different things. And that's the other thing you have to, be concerned about is somebody in Target, perfect example, right? Third party, they got hacked, come in through that channel. This stuff is real and relevant, and there's nothing you can really do other than be aware of the common scams, know what's going on. That's the Christmas scams, right? That's the war in Ukraine. That's the Valentine's Day. It's, you name it. If there's something that's big in the news, whether a tsunami came through, tornado, it doesn't matter. These people are sitting in other countries that don't have a personal tie to you. They don't care about you. It's business to them. It's all business. And you could have just lost your house, the loss of life in Ukraine, whatever. They don't care. It's all about money to them. It's how do they get the next big spend. Slow down. Hannah wants you to be in a hurry. Because when you're in a hurry, what do? You don't think clearly sometimes. You're just busy. You're trying to get something else done. This thing interjected. It's bothering you. You just want it to go away so you can get back to your work because your boss wants something done super fast, wherever that looks like. And then there's Carl. Carl's somebody that his whole world is to basically find a way to breach your organization. That's what he wants to do. And he has many different ways of doing that. And Carl is somebody that is considered in a malware phishing person. That's what he does. He wants to get that malware injected inside your environment. That's his number one goal. That's his number one plan. When he does that, he plants that seed inside your environment. It opens up the door, and I'll go into that in a second. But it opens up the door for the bad actor, the cyber criminal, to get inside your world. And once they're inside, that's where some of the stuff we talked about earlier, there's no silver bullet. That's where you got to have those tools and stuff to put into place. Carl loves when everything is outdated. He loves it when the antivirus is outdated. He loves it when you're patching, your whole world is turned upside down. That's Carl's world. That makes his life super easy to be able to go through and run, manipulate, and control your environment through just one simple click. That's all it takes for him to put malware in. And if you think about it, you go through the cycle, Carl steals the passwords. Hannah finds another way to get username and password inside the environment. And once they have that, then he sends the email compromise that comes in via malware and wants you to click on it. Best thing to stop Carl, email remote access security best practices. Carl likes to do man-in-the-middle attacks. He likes to be that person that likes to intercept that communication back and forth. And once he has that, it's amazing how much somebody can learn through those different channels. And then obviously from a training perspective, and this is your home personal life too, tell your family, whatever, don't just click on something. If something's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Nothing out there is for free, but it only takes one click. And I can tell you from my time as a CISO, we did phishing campaigns, and that was the one thing, and it was always interesting. The reason why we do, because we would line it up with a holiday, a natural disaster, anything on, and it's amazing how many people that you'd have to circle back around and have conversation. Why'd you click? We actually just had this training. We just did this training because we'd always do the annual security training. Then they would do it and they'd tell them how to hover over an email and find out what the actual address, and they'd do it. And then we'd hit them with a phishing campaign and they would click away. And you're like, why would you do that? And they're like, yeah, but we thought this one was real. It was. It was a real phishing campaign. But executives, it's all levels, right? And the problem is you get a lot of environments, so when people click, like developers, local admins on their boxes a lot of the time, privilege access a lot of the time, have the keys to the kingdom. When they start clicking on it, you have a real problem. So training is probably the most important thing that you can do. And even then, I think everybody knows is it just takes one person. No matter how big, how small your organization is, one person. So the Yelenas of the world, Yelena is somebody that likes to be and operate under the world of being invisible. That's her whole goal. Yelena is the hacker, cyber criminal that once everybody else has done their job and they pass this over to Yelena and you clicked on that link and you opened up that PowerPoint or that Word doc that had that malware. And once that malware is installed, Yelena is the person that gets to come in. Yelena's whole job is to traverse your network. East-west traffic. She's trying to get from the initial access to the privilege access. And she's going to do that. And a lot of times you hear on the news is the different times companies, I'm trying to think, so JBS, when I was at Farm Credit Mid-America, JBS pork producers, up at that point, which was 2.5 years ago, they did the largest ever payouts, $28 million they paid out to ransomware. What they found out was that the ransomware, the specialists, the bad guys, the hackers were in their environment for 4 months before they were able to get to where they needed to get to lock up their data. And there's a lot of things that were wrong in that, that the signs were on the table, but was ignored. Because you can have the best technology in the world, but if somebody's not paying attention to it, it means nothing. So JBS had a big lesson learned. But my point on that, the Yelenas of the world were in there 4 months. 4 months just doing this whole east-west traffic just to get to the privilege access. And as soon as they get to the privileged access of your database administrator, your database architect, whatever it looks like, they just got the keys to your kingdom. They just locked up your data, right? So therefore, you're a victim of ransomware. You're just another statistic. But bigger than that, you've got a business to run at the same time. But Yelena is often very successful. What Yelena doesn't like, kind of a couple likes and dislikes, she does not like anybody that has strong security practices. She does not like anybody that has monitoring software that knows that, hey, so-and-so normally doesn't go to this. Why are they even looking at it? Well, that's interesting because they shouldn't be. Well, let's go take a peek. Well, so-and-so, they were on vacation. They're not even there. Okay, Houston, we got a problem. And then and you can stop it. She does not like that because then therefore you get to kick them out of your environment. You do the investigation, and then you actually go through some different practices to make your environment even harder, right? So that's the whole goal of this, is to keep them out, or once in to find them. Sadly though, because of all the Yelenas out there, and you saw from the 2020 slide, or the slide earlier had the 2020 explosion, they're very successful at it because they know how to come in, they know how to be quiet, and they know how to just kind of work the network without causing those red flags. Especially if you don't even have the right software in there to watch your network that gives them free reign. So Yelena, how do we stop Yelena? You keep your operating system, your apps, and your antivirus up to date. That's really one of the key things you can do. That's the easiest thing to do, because I wish I could sit there and tell you, go buy this, this, and this. And by the way, I say I worked for Trace3, right? That the whole technology provider. Yeah. But no, so you keep everything up to date, right? Because you can't always just there's certain things you can do that are just simple, right? I mean, Microsoft releases their patches. If a 0-day comes out, address the 0-day. Now I say that because I've been on that side of the table, but I also know for a fact that to try to get a business or an executive team to impact business so you can do a 0-day is not easy. But you have to address that stuff sooner rather than later. Real world says you cannot disrupt your business always, depending on your business, the same day to a patch of 0 day. It's just not always applicable and relevant. You just can't sometimes. But how fast can you do it? Because the only way 0 days happen is it's actively going on someplace. And that's how Microsoft releases it. I hate to use Microsoft as an example. They're usually a little late to the game anyway. Is there any Microsoft reps in here? That's good. All right, so Alex. Alex is the innovator. Alex is the guy that comes in. Once Yelena's did her job, she's went through, she's worked with everything. I mean, you got what? Pierre, Hannah, Carl, Yelena. They all did their job. You are struck with ransomware. The Alexes of the world, those are the guys that get to notify you and go, hey, by the way, you've probably noticed right now, we have locked up your data. It's fully encrypted. We have the key. Here's what you can do. Let's settle this out. Pay us this small trivial fee of millions of dollars. We will give you the key. You about your business, we'll go about ours. That was the way it used to be not that long ago. And like I said earlier, when they introduced ransomware as a service, the ethical part of hacking isn't always the same. But by design, and that's so weird, is you pay Alex and they give you the key and you go about your business. One thing Alex doesn't like is we'll talk. Alex doesn't like it if you segment out your network. He doesn't like it if you have everything set in someplace else and you have your network backups and all your data backups and your production environment backed up into someplace offsite that Yelena didn't have access to. So they don't always know that, which is by design. You don't want them to know where your other backups and stuff are. But Yelena backed it up or locked up your production database. He's coming in saying, haha, we got you. He's gonna do it really nice. That's his job. He's gonna come, we got you. Pay this. We're like, no, pound sand. We just restored. And by the way, we closed every door that you just came in. Investigation, you bring in a company. How many here have IR retainers or have some sort of business continuity plan to, if something happened and you knew exactly who to call, when to call? It's really interesting, right? So there's a lot of people that don't do that. And in today's world, it's probably more relevant than ever. How many here have cyber insurance for your organization? How many of your cyber insurance say you have to have an IR or a very minimum business continuity plan? Isn't it crazy? Insurance is going to drive what you're going to do inside your association because most of them are paying out so much. I can tell you from Farm Credit, we were required to have it. And if you didn't have it, you either had to pay a premium that would be better off to go and just pay a ransomware. But cyber insurance is going to tell you what you have to do because this market is evolving so fast and so much money is coming out. And it's just like they'll raise the prices, right? You get into an accident. Did I tell you earlier I had triplet daughters? Yeah, I'm not even going to get to how many times one car backed into another car because they parked someplace. Anyway, yeah. So, in the totaled car. Anyway, so they raise the rates. It's by design. And that's for a $2,000 accident, right? Or whatever that looks like. But when you start talking about $10, $15 million of ransomware that they have to pay out, they're going to start putting that criteria on us. And what I would recommend is come up with some sort of IR retainer. You need to have somebody that can do boots on the ground. And that's incredibly important. That might go back to that trace 3 thing I said earlier. But in all seriousness, you have to have that because you need somebody that can do that boots on the ground because in that example I gave you where Alex calls you and says, hey, by the way, we locked it up. You want somebody that can come in and you want your data on another network. But before you restore that data, you want to close every door possible that Yelena was able to get through, right? Don't restore your data until you've closed the door because there's a pretty good chance Yelena's still in your environment. It's just the way it is. But you need to find that out. Get with the experts, let them come in, ensure that that's done, and they'll certify. then restore your data, and then get back about your business. Plan and practice, tabletop exercises. 100% true story. Early on in 2020, the reason why I say I use Farm Credit, I was there for 13 years, 10 years as a CISO. I've only been with Tracery for 5 months, so I've got real world experience coming from this. In 2020, we did our tabletop exercise, and it was about a pandemic. Unless you slept the last couple of years, it happened. The neat part about that is when the real world thing happened, we realized that, yeah, that didn't really do very good for us on the tabletop exercise. But the other side of that, our communication plan, all that stuff that we walked through was solid. Tabletop exercises are an immense amount of value, and I recommend bringing somebody from the outside to do it that's not biased to your environment, that is gonna sit in there and is not scared to call out your CIO, your CEO, and say, you're officially dead in this tabletop exercise. Who's gonna do this? Take out your CEO, your CIO. Who's gonna do that? That's what happens, because not everybody's gonna be there. So the life cycle, the flow of ransomware. You got the recon, initial access persistence. I didn't put Hannah on there. She's probably emotionally upset at me now. But privilege escalation, Elena, right? Alex. Alex is gonna hit with the impact, right? And he's gonna come in, just like I said, and he's gonna say, I got you. What you wanna be able to say is, no, not so fast. We're ready. So, big actors out there. So I had Revel down under retired up until about 10 days ago. Anybody else see that? Revel's back. Yeah, it was about 10 days ago, week and a half. They're back. And I'll show you another slide right after this. It shows how much they made in 2020. So I'm thinking they have really bad accountants or poor spending habits or something, or they just got exceptionally bored because they made so much money. But if you look at some of those, you'll see JBS, like I mentioned, Kasai, Apple, Acer, LA Times, multiple city schools, Kia Motors. It's insane. And these are just the ones that I listed on the slide. There's a lot more. And what's scared, and I'll say this one more time, it might be another time, I'm not gonna lie, to be honest. But the interesting part about it is the ransomware as a service brought in a bunch of amateur ransomware people that can run software and cause issue and conflict. These are the big players in the game. The other ones are going after the small mom and pop shops. They're not asking for 10 million, they're asking for 5,000. Big difference. But that's what they can afford to do because they're not technically advanced enough to really understand the whole game. But they're going to go after the mom and pop. And $5,000 to somebody that's sitting in their basement is a significant amount of money. They usually get caught quite a bit though. So Revel. Revel is about 20 people. Software developers, goes to the software like that Pierre uses, right? That's really advanced software that can go in and take your username and password, scan across multiple environments, do different iterations of your password and make it relevant, and then actually go out and sell it. They partner networks, that's all they work with. It's people they know and trust, and that goes back to the earlier when I said it's an organization, right? It's organized crime. There's different sections and different people that do different things. Partners, they break into networks. Carl, destroy backups. Elena, steal data. Elena, right? That's what they do. Once they do that, then they got you. Then they got Revel's role, negotiate with the victims. Profit sharing, 75% goes to partners, 25% goes to Revel. All they do is support the software, negotiate, and they get 25%. $100 million US dollars in 2020. That's just sitting there going, I got you. Oh, hey, yeah. And they do have tech support for software. It's insane. It's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother business. According to the group, and here's one thing, that's why I said earlier, group members never travel outside the US or the other CS countries. They just don't. They'll go to jail. Here's one thing, and this is a statement made by Revel, which I think is bold, and if it doesn't make you think and scare you just a little bit, or your business from that aspect, I don't know. The future of our business is in data exfiltration and extortion. Encrypting data is just icing on the cake. And man, $100 million doing it. That's insane to me. I mean, that's some serious money. That's just one. That's just Revel. Why companies pay ransom? Basic functions usually rely on technology because they didn't plan prepared. They didn't have the right tools in place to stop the ransomware from happening. They did not have a segmented network. They did not have a backup. They didn't do all the things that in today's business you should be doing. And I can tell you, as a CTO for Trace3 today, we deal with a lot of companies that didn't have these plans put in place. Then we actually have IR, and we go out and we bring experts from all over, and we bring in, we're boots on the ground, and we help, and we stop this, and we try to find a way. One, how good is the encryption? Is it a Revel type encryption, or is it the little Timmy in the basement encryption? I don't know. But it's big business, and certain companies can't afford downtime. Certain companies will lose millions of dollars an hour, sometimes a minute. Depends on the business model. Sophistication of the demands. If you don't do anything, they know that. And when Elaine is in there and she's going through your environment, don't think for a second that she's not looking at other different things and reporting that up and trying to find a way, because her job is, as she's traversing your network, trying to get to those escalated privileges, like I said earlier, steal the back or destroy your backups. If something's out there, if you don't have a segmented network, and you're like, okay, well, here's this. Well, here's so-and-so back file from their accounting system. Yeah, let's just delete that anyway. Do that, and they do that at the same time as she's planning through there, that she locks up the software. It's the same exact timing. It's all about time for destroy, because somebody's going to notice, hopefully at some point in time, if you have the right software in place, that a bunch of stuff just got deleted off your network. Hey, we just lost 45 gig or whatever gigabytes of data real fast and backups on our, that server. What happened? Well, let's go out and look. Oh man, we just got hit. We're locked up. Key recommendations, and this is just some. I mean, this is just Mike's perspective, right? Back your data securely. Not everybody can segment out a network. Not everybody can do that. It's a budget thing, right? A lot of it's a business model. It's executive buy-in. There's all these different frequencies of confusion that goes into why you can and can't do something inside an environment. A lot of times it just comes down to money. And today, staffing shortages, technical ability. It's just a different world. Keep your operating system, apps, and antivirus up to date. That's the easiest thing you can do. I mean, from that perspective, it really is. Unique passwords, secure password managers, multi-factor authentication. How many people at your work, and I don't know, I have any idea where any of you work, but use MFA of any type? What's your passwords? Just teasing, just checking. But no, so that's important. How many of you are still using 8 characters in your passwords? Yeah, I worked for a company prior, probably shouldn't say their name, but at 8 characters, $34 billion company. And we didn't change it. You know why we didn't change it? We didn't want a bad user experience. But guess what happens if you get popped? It's a bad brand experience. Who would you rather have upset that they had to change their password from 8 to 12 or enforcement of passphrases? I'm gonna pick on Timmy again. Timmy in accounting or a brand damage? Do you want to be on the news? When I first started at this company, Farm Credit, 10 years ago, when I moved here to Louisville, the one thing the CEO said in our interview, he's like, if you get this, he goes, I need you to keep me off the news. He goes, I got one ask, just keep me off the news. And then he retired last year before I moved to Trace3, and I said, Bill, I said, I did my job. And he goes, you did. And then he's like, but you're leaving now, right? And I'm like, yeah, well, we both are, but that was our agreement, keep you off the news. Segment out your IT systems. Like I said, that goes back to financial. There's so many things to go into, but it's best case scenario, right? It's best practice. Segment out, segment. Separate your production environment from where your backups and stuff are, and sometimes segment your production environment out of your test, dev, whatever that is, right? And then test your security plan and practice. Focus on email, remote. That's how people are coming in. Email. Remember, one click from Carl. That one thing that Hannah circling back with you and telling you that you just want a dozen roses for your beautiful significant other. Click here and we'll have those delivered to you. Something's going to be delivered to you, maybe in the form of a pink slip. I don't know. So Trace3, I'll just circle back on that just real quick. Like I said, we're a technology reseller. We actually, and we do provide services. We're heavy into it. I'll pick on him back there, Brian Barkus. If you want to raise your hand there, Mr. Brian. Brian leads our Indianapolis team. He's the leader of our security practices. And then Susan Priest back there right next to him. She's our security overlay. She comes in and actually helps understand a vision and lines up the right people to do that. So this is my sales pitch. I'm not a sales pitch guy. I'm not a sales guy. My family would be very hungry if they were. But this is some of the things that I'd recommend. Well, it's Tracy or somebody else, right? Security assessment. Come in and have somebody from the outside challenge you. Look at your environment, ask you these questions, because nobody out there, and I mean nobody, wants to call your own baby ugly. And it's the truth, right? It's just me. But yeah, you will say, I think, 1 to 5 systems, I think we're probably a 3 there. Yeah, but the software expires. We haven't updated 3 years. I know, but we were 2.8 when we put it in, so we matured a lot. No, that's what we say to ourselves. But somebody else is going to go, really, where are you at? When's the last time you passed it? When's the last time you updated it? Do you use it? Are the right people using it? Do you have a software that monitors something that gets alerts, sends alerts, and nobody pays attention to those? That's real world today. And a lot of it's because of why? Staffing. And nobody wants to be the guy that has to go through and read the emails and watch the logs. That's called intern. Entry level is what you want for that. Been there, done that. But tools assessment, what do you have in house? What you have, is it relevant to what's going to happen? If Yelena gets in and she's traversing left and right and she's trying to get here, do you have the right tools in place that's going to say, hey, something's not right? If you do, great. Then you just made a ransomware person not have a bad day because they don't care. They go on to the next one because they got a whole list of them. And then obviously breach assistance, and I think this is going to be made public, these presentations. So this is something where we could come in. Trace3 is phenomenal. I didn't know this. I had just started Trace3. Susan actually had just started Trace3, and her and I had worked together before, and we had a customer call up that wasn't a customer actually, that was having an issue and they could not get the issue resolved. And I learned something that very valuable that day, that Trace3, even if you're not a customer, you can call their NOC and they will help you. I did not know that. I thought that was pretty amazing. Kind of validated that I went to the right company. But true story. The guy was down in Tennessee, the healthcare company, having a major issue with the file server. They were down. Microsoft could not get them going. Trace3 had them going within 3 hours. It's got to be the truth. I'm not a sales guy. But no, it was amazing. And I did not even know that. I think I'd been 30 days at Trace3 to realize that we provide support for people that aren't even our customers. That's all I have. I still have 3 minutes, pretty good. Normally I was doing 60, so I took some slides out and I stand up and talk to myself at home anyway. But I wasn't sure. So are there any questions? Please.
The business model information that you have, where did that come from?
For which aspect? Let me ask that.
Rebel, all the technical details of how to split the profit sharing.
It's all public. Yeah, if anything like that, you can go and Google Revel. Revel's actually one of the biggest ones because they have a tendency to be a big hitter, and Revel's not bashful about sharing out what Revel knows. And Revel also knows that there's nobody that can touch them. It's scary. And I read an article the other day that had a bunch of like Russian military breaching an apartment. There was supposed to be a bunch of ransomware people, and then they actually found out it was the same footage for something they did for a drug thing, whatever, right? So they're trying to make the world feel better that they're cracking down on a large problem inside their country. So what he asked was, how did I get the business model information on Revel? It's public. You can find it. Or do I do it on the weekends? Yeah, I wouldn't be up here if I did. I would. I got to pay for 3 colleges. Anyway, any other questions, please?
So in the SMB space, we tend to end up with a lot of
strategies you recommend to kind of deal with those people? Maybe they inadvertently or intentionally become an insider threat?
Yeah, what I'll tell you is there's a couple different ways to handle it. There's software out there that you can actually monitor on, and sometimes employees don't feel good, but I think any business, any company is justified in doing it when you have a bunch of privileged access users. The reason why I say that is because the software will actually monitor, and it can actually go in and say, okay, Timmy always works here. This is where Timmy works. Timmy always emails this, picks up his habits. Why is he all of a sudden over here? Well, one, because by privileged access he can, but should he be? And that leads to a conversation. And we have customers that we talk to about that, because they want that. I have a bunch of people that have privileged access. How do I know, or how do I stop them from going rogue? Because the insider threat's real. It's not common. I mean, it really isn't. But if I'm a CEO of a company, or as a CISO of one, I was worried about it, because we dealt with people that were terminated, less than desirable conditions, that would go and email all this stuff out, and they had non-compete and all these different things. But yeah, there's tools out there to watch. And I think anybody should be watching, anybody that traverses your network. That might be my aluminum cap and stuff like that. But I think it's relevant today, because data's worth money, real money. Did I answer that? I'll be around. We can talk more after this too. There's just a lot of ways to do it, but insider threat's real. But there are ways you can actually go and monitor that and see if somebody, even an employee, traverses your network or goes and breaks habit, if you will, what they would normally do on their work day or after hours and weekends. Anybody else? Well, hopefully it was helpful. I try not to be, as CISO, I've done a lot of trainings. I try not to be boring. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.